Namaskar to everyone. Respected chairpersons and dignitaries, to all my distinguished delegates and the esteemed scholars. It's a very great honor to stand at this conference and present the profounded theme Indian knowledge system. The Indian knowledge system is not merely an ancient civilizational knowledge which is claiming the monopoly over truth. It invited lots of inquiry and welcomed diverse stream of thought and integrated them into coherent approach which is helping us to understand the line of thought and the approach. So Bharat is not just an ancient civilization, it is a continuous flow of thought and knowledge civilization which is helping us even today to determine what is the line of thought and the approach. When we observe and talk about the technological innovations of India, I would like to draw all your attentions to one of the greatest technology by Indians, water management technology. The water management technology on Uttaramerur temple of Kanchipuram, Tamil Nadu district. As soon as we hear the name Uttaramerur, our mind directly jumps into the Kodavalai system, the ancient democratic governance model which is present on the wall of the temple. Today I would like to showcase one of the very important documented inscription on Uttaramerur temple which is less spoken that deserves the national attention, that is water management technology. So the inscriptions of Parantaka Chola 1 clearly defines that the water management was not outsourced to the state, it is an integral part of local self-governance and collective democratic responsibilities. The inscription details clearly says that the Sabha administrative practices and the establishment of various variums, that is committees, created for the different public functions. Among them, I would like to present two committees, that is Eri variums and Thota variums, where which is responsible for the water management and Thota varium is responsible for oversaw of public gardens and irrigation linked lands. The tanks mentioned in these inscriptions are called as Thataka and Aries, and these committees are responsible for the functions of desilting of tanks, maintaining of canals, preventing water encroachment and ensuring seasonal water distributions to the various taluks and districts of the Kanchipuram. And this is recorded governance carved on the west wall of Vaikunta Parimal temple at Uttaramerur in Kanchipuram. Further, this construction of tanks, wells and channels were considered as an act of charity. It is not only the kings, the people has participated. So both rulers and citizens donated the land and gold for the maintenance of tanks and the irrigation channel. While granting the land, Pallavas and Cholas kings clearly specified that the irrigation facilities advised people to use water according to the actual need of them. So when we speak about Uttaramerur, we are not merely speaking of election and governance models, we are witnessing a civilization where the democracy governed water technology for the sustained society and their responsibilities are rested with the people. The Uttaramerur inscriptions of Kampavarman also says that if the people dig into the banks of the tank, they would be either fined. If they let out the tank water illegally, they would be treated as traitors. The punishment did not stop at fines. The inscription further declares that the violation of tank maintenance would incur the sin equivalent to destroying the city of Kanchipuram itself. This tells us one thing very clearly: water infrastructure was a sacred civic property. From this analysis of the inscriptions, we clearly understand that the local bodies such as Sabhas were responsible for the maintenance of tanks, and that Sabhas and Variam was also divided into two different types, that is Eri Variam and Samvatsara Variam. These committees are responsible for the construction of the tanks and took up the maintenance responsibilities, which is also known as the inscriptions of Dantivarman, present in various parts of Tamil Nadu temples. You can find the evidence, one in the Tiruchanapalli inscriptions and one is in Dantavarman inscriptions. So water management was not a limited administration alone. The ministers, commanders and villagers extended the wholehearted support not only for the construction of tanks and wells but also for their periodic maintenance and collective responsibilities. Let me showcase one of the other inscriptions from Nandivarman III, which specifically records that the 1/3 of the income from the local lake was to be given to the Paramukkal of Kalattur, which meaning the Sabha legally liable to take the tank maintenance, and that should be divided among to the workers, the local committees. So this references has been documented on the South Indian inscriptions of volume 1 and 2, and also in volume 23 at page number 128 and 29. Several inscriptional evidences on water management are available in the annual reports of the Archaeological Survey of India and Epigraphica Indica volume 3 and 4. So by this context, if we observe the secondary resources of the greatest historians of Tamil Nadu who has dedicated their time and identify the water management technology present at the time of Pallavas and Cholas. So in that context, I would like to showcase in 1988, Dr. T.V. Mahalingam compiled all the available Pallava inscription in his general Avanam, providing the comprehensive understanding of Pallava's water governance system. In that, he clearly mentioned that the Pallava earned their title as Kaduvettis, hence they were bringing all the forest land under the cultivation and increasing the agricultural yield. The another historian, Guru Raja Rao at 1972 suggested that the Kanchipuram district were the megalithic in origin, and there is no concrete references and the evidences to support this view, but instead the early medieval inscriptions clearly shows that the Pallavas were the first in the South India to systematically construct the irrigation tanks, wells and the water management system. He articulated and brought the lot of evidential factors about this in his articles at 1972. So in the water management technology, the construction of tanks, wells and the periodic maintenance was not only the responsible part. After that, the labor management come to the picture. For labor management evidential information, I would like to share the Sangam literature refers to the Karikalan. Because in Sangam literature and Hattigumpa inscription records, the King Karavella belonged to the Vodda community, and these Vodda communities were also called as the Perumakkal of the state, and they were not only the laborers who used to construct the tanks, wells and only for the periodic maintenance of the canals and letting of waters and even the anekats, they were the super quality hydraulic civil engineers. In a dry and a hot climate, the Pallavas created a sustainable solution to the water scarcity, building tanks, wells for both drinking as well as in irrigation, while actively involving the local communities in the management. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a very common belief that the past teaches us many lessons. One such lesson which is useful for all of us is the water management, which has done effectively and efficiently in the past, where the Pallavas have showed the way by which state can sustain only through the collective responsibility of the people. So these are all the greatest inscriptional evidential present in Epigraphica as well as various part of Archaeological Survey of India document, which is showcasing the greatest water management technology has been identified, invaded and executed by the Indians. Let me also highlight one of the local governance capacity of the villagers by giving one of the example, that is British Compulsory Labour Act at 1858. So it was a very ruthless act. They criminalized villagers who refused to work for unpaid labor. Once upon a time, the owners and custodians of the tanks, maintaining them for the generations through the locally collected taxes, were put as a labor to construction of tanks, anekat, etc. without an unpaid. So by manipulating local social psychology, the colonial administration triggered and widespread the resentment and revolts. So one such revolts occur in Dhamal village of Kanchipuram district, where the villagers openly challenged the British authority, and Mr. Srinivasachari Iyer represent the villagers in the case against the British secretary. The court ruled in the favor of Damal villagers, recognizing their generational tax collection and maintenance of the water bodies. The judgment, it clearly stated that PWD department had no authority over the community owned water system even today. This case remained as a very powerful example of the small village defeating the colonial rule through the law and retaining control over its traditional water resources. The picture which has been shown on the screen has been taken at 2025 June. It is currently the lake and the construction of the local governance managed water body in Dhamal village of Kanchipuram district, where the PWD is nowhere connected even today for the maintenance of the tanks. So, traditional knowledge is not merely a cultural memory, it is a knowledge of governance and sustainable management of natural resources. It teaches us how to manage our natural resources even today. Ancient Bharat did not practice community-based management where wealth generated from the natural resources and was reinvested into their long-term sustainability. The revenue which has been generated from all the water bodies has been given to the maintenance and the protection of hydraulic civil engineers of their time, that is Wada communities. So Uttaramerur stands as a living evidence. I proudly says that while modern system debate water policy, the ancient Bharat practiced water wisdom already. Today, in 2026, India is once again returning to this wisdom. Today we talk about the river rejuvenation, construction of tanks, prevention of lakes all over the country. But through river rejuvenation and water tank conservation and initiative like Jal Jeevan Mission of 2047 Vikasit Bharat, ensuring clearly that water security is not only the responsible of the governance or the respective bodies, it also equivalently holds the responsibilities for each and every household, ensuring the water security is much needed. Because the only best gift which we can live on this planet for the future generations is the water. As a result, the generations of Indians grew up with disconnecting from their own intellectual heritage. The civilizations that once taught the world began doubting itself. IKS is not merely an academic, it shaped how society has to be functioned. Where the villages were self-governing, the temples were the centers of education, economy and welfare. The guides were regulated as skills and ethics. The kings were guardians, not as the owner of power. So this is why the India could remain the civilization even when it was not the single political state. Today, by considering all the Bharatiya Gnana Parampara, the continuation part of the Indian knowledge system, the new India reflects the fusion of the ancient wisdom and the modern capabilities. From ISRO space docking satellites to the indigenous defense system like Agni, BrahMos and Tejas, building the Atmanirbhar Bharat on all our waters, India has moved from the dependencies to the strategic self-reliance. Through UPI, startups, digital infrastructure and economic growth, India is leading the world economy today. Not only that, observing the cultural nationalism, the new India stands proud of its roots, rising with the spirit of cultural nationalism. The Deepavali glows with the hope, while the Mahakumbh Mela flows with the devotion. The UNESCO honors these living traditions, celebrating and sharing our rich heritage with the world. Most importantly, the knowledge in the India was never fragmented. The science was not separated from the ethics, the technology was not separated from the responsibility, and the education was not separated from the character. The Indian knowledge system was designed for all the levels of society and functions at the very multiple layers. The philosophical traditions for the scholars, the narratives for the common people, and the practical knowledge for the community life. It is a multi-layered accessibility ensured that the participation of the entire civilization, what was once dismissed, now celebrated as a symbol of resilience and the progress. So, Bharatiya Gnana Parampara is the source, and the Indian knowledge system is the structured expression of Bharatiya Gnana Parampara. At present India, our language may differ, the food may change, and the customs may vary, but our civilizational memory always remains one. The new India rises, proud of its roots and shining with the cultural nationalism. Jai Bharat. Dhanyawad.